Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks all the people down in the audience for coming by, and thanks to everybody that's listening to the recording after. This is going to be a pretty cool, pretty fun AMA. Super stoked to finally get Moon God over here and kind of talk about what he's doing, what he's building, and how it kind of relates to what we're doing in the space. And yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. Looking forward to this. For everyone that is kind of new or doesn't know, my name is Chrome, or also known as Jacob. I'm one of the co-founders. We got as well Doc down there in the audience, and he's another one of the co-founders. And there's two other that are just a little bit busy at the moment, not able to attend. Yeah, if you don't know much about collective finance, then I recommend listening back to some other AMAs or come join in the Discord, ask some questions, and we'll get to know a little bit. But yeah, that's a bit about us, and I'll kick it off. Hey, there's no audio.
Sorry, had to switch my lights. The one behind
There
me
you
leaves a massive thing, and I have another light that's over there. So I forgot about that. But hi, everybody. My name is Moon God. I am the project director slash CEO of Prisma Finance. My actual name is Matt. For anyone that's kind of curious, you're going to watch it after the fact. I have been in the crypto space since 2022, like January of 2022, and started working and building Prisma with another guy from a Discord that was kind of all about it was kind of like an investing club, in April of 2022, and we've been kind of building it ever since. We added a couple other people, Sanjay, who's our website developer. Vlad, who kind of runs a lot of our, business solutions, including things like, setting up our Discord, our Telegram, stuff like that. And then we've got Moonrise, who's our CMO, or Chief Marketing Officer. And that's the team, real short and sweet there. As for our project, it is a pretty simple system. That's one of the big things for us over here, is that we notice there's a lot of complication within the crypto space, especially in DeFi. So we kind of wanted to simplify our structure as much as we could for the end user. And so the basic process for our setup is you just buy Prisma, hold it, and you get airdropped USDC payouts starting at every single month. We plan on kind of adjusting that as we generate additional revenue, to have those payouts be a little more often. But yeah, just simply put, you buy Prisma, you hold it, we farm revenue through a multitude of different streams, and then we pay that revenue out to our holders in the form of stablecoin. Just like I said, airdrop right into your wallet. And then from there, we wanted to add a little more, feature flexibility and functionality. So what we did was we developed our staking vaults, and they have no locks associated to them. So there's no time frame that you have to have your tokens locked up for. They also have no staking or unstaking fees. The only, quote unquote fee, if you want to call it that, is going to be your gas fees that you'd have to just pay for the contract to function. And then you can just stake your Prisma and be paid out in a different token. So an example of such would be, you could stake Prisma in a Bitcoin vault or an Ethereum vault or BNB or, one of our partner tokens, Collective Finance, CGLD. That's one of those that's going to show up in there pretty soon as well. And we're really excited to be able to kind of provide that to our holders, give them, a very simple and easy to use process, allow them to kind of, on their own, make it a little more complicated if they want to. And by complication, I just mean allowing them to diversify the way that they're paid out, without making anything too over the top difficult, and without charging, any kind of crazy fees associated with it either. So it's kind of the quick elevator pitch, the quick rundown of Prisma and what we're looking to do. There's a lot more complicated processes on the back end that I can definitely go over if people are interested in that. But I was told to try and keep it a little bit simple, just so we don't have a 3 hour long AMA here.
Yeah, sometimes simple is best, especially with kind of how some people are in this space. It's some things can get a little bit complicated. It'll get hard for them to grasp kind of what the true concept is. And we found that with collective finance originally, that kind of what we were promoting was a little bit too complicated, the way we were getting the message out there. And sometimes you just kind of have to keep it simple, stupid, and
Yep.
dumb it down for everybody a little bit, make it really clear and simple. But yeah, no, I love it. I like that explanation. I should have questioned for you, what is your background? Because I know you said you've got a little bit of financial background. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I work in IT in the finance industry. I've been in there since 2018. So you can kind of do the math on that and be like, hey, how long's he been in there? Um, uh, Before that, I've always kind of done some personal trading and things like that. That's actually how I bought the house that we're in here, just through that
Nice.
over a period of time. So yeah, that's kind of my background in that instance of, like, hey, what experience do I have and things like that. Um, I'm also, I know it sounds really kind of weird to say this. I love math. I love models. I love numbers. I love the stock market and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, different like trading capacities and, figuring out different things and kind of like looking at information to kind of see where like markers and, important kind of like points in time and how they kind of translate and what can you kind of, look to see these same kind of markers going forward to allow you to kind of be on the right side of things. I would say the positive with crypto is that it doesn't necessarily force you to pay attention to those markers in the way that we are looking, to generate our revenue since we aren't doing like spot trading or anything like that specifically. So in terms of like, oh, that's a great question. I was actually about to say that, Callie. Um, so in terms of like our revenue generation, what we're looking to do is first and foremost, we kind of have 3 to 4 different structures that we're basing it out under. So we've got like what we consider like a low risk. We've got our medium risk like blue chip. Then we have direct investments through like our bot farming and things like that. And then we also are going to be dollar cost averaging some tokens as well too, depending on which ones we kind of like. So an example of such would be on the low risk side, we'd have like stablecoin LPs. We'd also have things like staking or lending, no borrowing, because we're not looking to borrow to do things. We're looking to just lend, earn a little bit of APR in that aspect,
Mhm.
and kind of, keep it very simple and very safe. Then what we consider like the medium risk would be like blue chip LPs. So you'd have, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your BNB, potentially like Cake token, things like that as well too, where it's like, hey, these are going to be tokens that are going to be around. They may be down right now, but we know that this isn't something that's going to snap out of existence tomorrow. Like Pancake Swap's not going to just disappear next week.
No. Dex
So
tokens are pretty good, actually. Like, I would personally, I'd say,
like
like,
buy swap, things like
yeah.
that. Yeah. A lot of those where it's like, hey, we know that these are going to exist for, you know, 5, 10, 15 years, where it's like, hey, if we're going to be holding these tokens, it's not going to hurt us in the long run.
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of the mentality there for the like the blue chip LP farming. And then as we kind of, move into, I guess, what you'd call like our higher risk, that would include things such as like bot farming and, some of the process we have associated with that. So as an example of such, we have 2 different structures within our bot farms. We've got one which is doing about 3 to 4% per month, with like pretty much zero downside at all. Then we have a little bit of a higher risk one that's being tested right now, where it's doing anywhere from about 0.15 to about 0.25% per day. So the first one is doing like 3 to 4% per month. So you can kind of do the math on that one. The second one is doing about 0.15 to about 0.25% per day, which is about 99 to about 100% on the year. So it's doing a lot better than the other one. Those
Nice.
tests are still kind of ongoing. We're doing those live as well too, and we do get that question very often, where like, hey, are we going to provide the trades to people? Yes, we will provide them after the fact because we don't want people to try and like replicate the trades that we're doing
Mhm.
because it's just not something we can recommend.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's like
so yeah,
copy trading, but yeah, but
exactly. Yeah, we don't want somebody trying to do copy trading on this, and then they say, okay, well, I got in like 10 minutes after you did. Like why didn't I make the same amount? It's like it's just not going to happen like that.
yeah.
Um, and that's not us just trying to hide anything. That's just us, trying to make sure that people aren't, like trying to 100% replicate what we're doing and end up like losing in a situation. Then they blame us and they're like, well, you got in and you made X amount. Why didn't I make that? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's safer, definitely. I agree 100% on that, and that's kind of like what we discussed doing a little bit would be like, with the bot trades to just show them after the fact, show like the
Right.
P&L like after they have been closed so that you can show like, okay, here's, where they entered, where
Here's
it took
entry, here's
profit,
exit.
whatever. Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Um, and then from there, we are also, as I talked about, and again, these aren't in order of like, like, hey, this is the riskiest one. That's the easiest way to kind of, break down the allocation. So, like, that would be considered like our highest quote unquote risk because, bot farming is fairly risky. And then our fourth iteration would be like dollar cost average on tokens. So that would be, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your Cake, your, other tokens where you can just buy them, consistently over, a period of months. You can even potentially like stake those as well. So that's where you can take like this dollar cost average and then still earn a little bit more on it as well too by potentially lending some of those out, or even like staking it in the Cake flexible swap or flexible
Yeah.
pool, so you can earn a little extra with it while it's just sitting there not doing anything. Of course, there's also CGLD as well too. You know, hashtag dropping names over here. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we plan on kind of having this diverse portfolio, that allows holders to experience diversification without having to do all the micromanagement and all of those processes themselves. So like, even just going from like staking to lending to LP farming to bot farming to dollar cost average, I mean, that's a lot. And it's very much so, extremely tough for most people to be able to kind of, manage all of those different things at the same time themselves and be able to hunker down and like just bear, or like weather the bear markets. And, a lot of times they have to kind of remove stuff. So that's, one of the benefits of our process is that, they're not having to necessarily do that. They're just kind of, sitting there holding onto their Prisma. We're managing all of that on the back end side. We're making adjustments as need be, and it allows people to have, exposure to diversification without having to do anything too crazy over the top on their side. So we really wanted to kind of keep it simple, and those are a couple of the methods. As we kind of expand upon those, we'll definitely provide them to any of our holders, ahead of time. So like if we look at say another route of farming or something like that, our holders would be informed to like, hey, this is what we're doing. And then a lot of times we'll test it before we do anything first. So like our bot farming, we've been testing that for like 3-4 months at this point. And we're in the process of doing live testing right now, and it actually just went through yesterday and the day before with the whole SEC notification, and came out on top, with 2.8% return.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, about the over the 2 to 3 days that the SEC has decided that they wanted to just throw Binance through the mud, the muck, and the grime.
Yeah.
It was 3%, which is insane.
Nice.
Um, and again, that's what we would consider like an outlier. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like, we had a lot of we had a lot of Hail Marys and stuff like that we had going on over here where we're like, all right, come on, this is the test. If it can weather this, it's gonna be totally fine. And it exceeded our expectations like by a lot. Um, so we're really excited. We're really hyped for that. We don't think that that's going to be every day, but 3% through the chaos of yesterday and the day before, and then starting the day before that over the last 3 days. That's really exciting, really big, especially with no drawdown. Like we didn't have a loss at all during that period of time. So
Nice. No,
it was
that's
wild.
really cool.
Yeah.
Um, One of my next questions here, you kind of answered this a little bit as you were talking through, but who is Prisma for? Who would you say that? What like who? Yeah, who is Prisma for?
Yeah, so Prisma can be looked in a couple of different ways. Our goal has always been, this is kind of like a set and forget, long-term holders, so to speak, where, You can just throw a little bit of like extra funds that are kind of sitting around, into Prisma, get paid out directly in stablecoin, but you don't have to worry about anything. Or you could even use it as a dollar cost average system, so you don't have to do it yourself. You can come in and just, you buy some Prisma, you get paid out in stablecoin, and by staking or sorry, not paid out in stablecoin, you buy Prisma, you stake it in one of the vaults, and then you just get dollar cost average of the token associated to those vaults just airdropped right into your wallet, every single payout.
Hmm.
So it's really for those that want to kind of have this sense of consistency in a simple process where they don't have to come in and like manually do things every single day, every single month, and really it gives them that flexibility to just kind of, hey, you can go degen, do some other stuff, but then when you want to take some of those profits and have them sit somewhere where, you can get paid out, like I said, in Bitcoin and Ethereum, you know, CGLD, get some exposure to gold, which is always doing, really, really good during these times.
Hmm.
Um, it allows them to do so. And that's really kind of what we're aiming to provide. So you can be degen and just use it to be able to fund any of your plays. You could be someone that's looking for, kind of a little bit more of um, a simple, secure process where you can just go through and you get a little bit of the revenue paid out every single month, and you can just play around with that if you want to, or you can just use that as passive income to do other stuff, pay bills, whatever you need to do. And again,
Yep.
all of that is provided with very, very low fees on the buy and sell side. It's 4% buy fee, 4% sell fee. And then, again, there's no fees on the staking or unstaking in our vaults. There's no time frames on those vaults either. So, if you stake your tokens into, the CGLD vault and you realize, oh, you know what, I've put a little more in there than I was thinking. Let me swap some of this over to the Bitcoin vault. There's no fees for that. Unlike most other tokens where it's like, yeah, you stake, here's a 2% fee. You unstaked, here's another 2% fee. Oh, you're staking now in another vault. That's an additional 2% fee. And it's like, yeah, we don't have any of that. We wanted to kind of, be end user friendly, so to speak. And that's kind of our best way of doing so.
Yeah. No, I think that's nice, keeping it simple and just not a lot of taxes except just for the buy and sell part, which is completely fair. I feel like it's somewhat needed in a lot of these like DeFi tokens. You kind of like need a buy and a sell tax to help mitigate some of the sell pressure, as well as some type of revenue for yourself for the project. I
Well,
think
I do have
that's
some good news in that aspect as well too, just to kind of follow up, is that when we do eventually transition to our V2, which doesn't have a set date, it's more of a milestone than it is anything else.
okay.
We're actually going to be 100% removing the buy and sell fees, so we will have no fees in any way, shape, or form on Prisma once we move to V2. Um,
Cool.
yeah, so that's going to be a huge adjustment. In terms of what it'll allow us to do flexibility wise, where we kind of want to go with the token in terms of like potential CEX listings and things like that.
Yeah.
Allows us to be a lot more flexible as well with how we kind of want to present Prisma, and continue to allow it to grow. So those that kind of get in and just end up sticking with us in the long run, it'll be a situation where eventually, you know, we're not going to have those fees where you have to deal with. And speaking of fees that you don't have to deal with, I know we talked about the other vaults, but we do also have an auto reinvest vault where if you stake your Prisma in there, it'll auto reinvest in, you know, um, your USDC payout into more Prisma, bypassing the buy fee as well. So that's kind of our
Mm.
little bit of an extra bonus that we're providing to anyone that wants to kind of auto reinvest, buy in more Prisma. And this is not Prisma that's like minted. This would be coming directly out of the LP. So it in effect works as a buyback. So
Cool. I
instead
like
of
that.
us having to do buybacks, we're trying to incentivize people to be in that auto reinvest vault, which then works every single payout as a buyback. So yeah, it's more of incentivization of doing things versus penalties for doing things, and we feel that's a huge change within the DeFi space and in crypto in general, where a lot of times for other projects. it's more like how can we charge you 15, 20% fees and stuff like that, to have that funnel back into the project. And, it's nice to see there's a lot of other projects that are looking to go with these like, hey, we're not trying to have any crazy fees. We're trying to remove a lot of this stuff. And, that's one of the things I like about, CGLD is it's a very simple process. You get your token and you're paid out what is it? You're paid out. Are you paid out in more CGLD? I can't remember. Or is it
You can
stablecoin?
uh, you can create LP and then stake it on. Currently, right now, only RBDEX is Crescent Swaps just getting their farms established. But
Right.
yeah, you can stake it on RBDEX to earn wrapped ETH, so you can earn the native
Right.
Arbitrum token as
Yep, yep,
well
yep.
as
I knew it was something like that. I couldn't
yeah.
remember if you guys were doing stablecoin as well, or if it was more CGLD that was getting bought back. But yeah, Wrapped. I mean, it's processes like that again with like super super low fees associated with it as well, where it's like this is really the game changers for DeFi, where it's like, hey, we're moving away from this, 20, 30, 40, even like in some places 50% buy and sell fee, total buy and sell fees,
Yeah.
to like, hey, let's actually go the opposite. Let's race to the bottom here. Who can have the lowest fees? And
Hmm.
so, we really love that kind of stuff, and it really adds a lot of flexibility for the holder where they don't feel penalized. So, yeah.
That's nice. We got another question from Callie. He asked, "What are your expectations for monthly payouts for Prisma holders?"
Yeah, so it's going to kind of depend. It'll effectively work on like an exponential curve. Right now, what we're looking to do is roughly about 1.5% as our baseline. That we feel is pretty conservative considering the fact that with a lot of the testing that we've done, as I kind of brought up earlier, our bot's doing about 3 to about 4%. Some of the V3 farming that we've been able to do is done anywhere from about 4 to 8%. Our higher tier bot is doing roughly anywhere from about 0.15 to about 0.25% per day, which is roughly about 15 to 20% on the month. Do I think we're going to hit that every single month? No, but our goal is the baseline to about 1.5%. In terms of like revenue paid out. And what I mean in that aspect is like if you were to deposit like $1,000 or something like that, it'd be like 1.5% is kind of the bare minimum that we're looking at there. Now again, we're hitting much closer to like 4 to 6% on average. So it's very much so going to be a situation where as time kind of goes on and that ramps up even further, depending on like auto reinvest with Prisma or how you're taking your payouts, you could in theory earn much much more than that. And since we're providing those vault options as well too, let's say you stake your Prisma in the Bitcoin vault and you're being paid out in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes back up to to like 60K. Do we count that as part of our APY? I don't think it's fair to do so. But it would be a situation where, in effect, you'd be making a lot more in, potentially being in one of those risky vaults, so to speak. But yeah, we're kind of looking on average at a minimum, like I said, of about 1.5%, which generally translates into, about 18 to 26% on the year. Is kind of like the baseline that we're looking for. Now, with some of the math and things that we've done, we've been able to hit up to about 100% on the year, which is a little bit wild. But yeah, that's kind of the difference in ranges. But I don't feel like it would be fair for me to come out and say, yeah, we're going to do like 140% every single year. That's just not going to
Yeah.
happen. And that's not fair for me to make a claim like that to anybody that's a potential holder. It very much so would be a case where that's, in effect, nothing more than just lying to your holders. And, we're never going to do that here. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Under promise, over deliver. That's kind of
Exactly. Yeah. So, like I said, as that baseline, we're kind of looking at about 1.5% per month. So that's not for the entire year. It's about 1.5% per month, um, which translates generally, kind of like giving a little bit of variation in there to about 18 to 26% on the year, give or take just a little bit.
very cool. Yeah, no, I like that. I think you're going for something that's legit and stable and not offering 1% daily high APY like the classic, which we've seen a lot. Some of these like ROID apps and stuff.
I,
It's
I
like,
would love to be able to do that. It's
oh
not mathematically possible though.
yeah, just realistically.
Even even with as close as our bot has been to what we would consider perfection here, 1% a day is just impossibly sustainable. Like it's just you can't do it. And that's one of the biggest fights that we've kind of had in terms of like, how do we combat these other projects that are providing like these APYs that are unrealistic? And one of the things that we've started to kind of do on our side is teaching people that like, hey, not only is unrealistic, but you're basically somebody else's exit liquidity. If you're
Yeah.
buying into a project that's promising that, you're somebody else's way out. Whereas like with Prisma and even with like CGLD, if you get in day one or you get in minute one, it doesn't matter if you're the person that gets in at 10 years at that point in time as well. You're still getting the same process, the same procedure, and you're eligible for those same returns, and you're not somebody else's exit liquidity at that point in time. So I think that's one of the biggest changes that we've kind of seen throughout this bear market is projects are having to realize that like, hey, you can't just use other people as exit liquidity. Obviously that'll change during the next bull run where we'll have all of those projects doing that all over again, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to see a lot of, really strong, really good projects providing, options for people that are out there that aren't just like, "Hey, you're now exit liquidity for the dude that got into this project 2 months ago. Thumbs up."
Yeah, that's like the tough lesson to learn is that's how a lot of projects operate and a lot of I guess like Ponzi schemes. That's how they
Mhm.
work is you're literally exit liquidity for the person that bought in, a week or a month earlier than you. So it's a lot of PvP definitely, but that's what I like about some of these new things popping up and what we created with collective and all this. It's like it's not PvP. You can
Yeah,
enter whenever you'd like. You can exit whenever you'd like. It's not going to matter. You just be smart about where you enter and where you exit. Because obviously you don't want to buy gold like at a plus 10% premium or anything, right? Because it's going to take a
right.
while for it to fully get back up there. But it just gives people that option to kind of have a good way in and a good way out without having to worry about like, oh man, am I going to get dumped on or is the price going to just collapse? Because that's literally I remember that happened to me one day. I like this is like a year ago or maybe a little bit more. I like just got paid and I was like, yeah, let me onboard some cash. And I was looking at something pretty degen and I was like, I'll just throw $100 at it and see. And then I think it was like 15 minutes later or 10 minutes later, it dropped like 80% in price. And I was like, oh, that's
Right.
fantastic. Great timing. I was literally just exit liquidity for somebody else. I was like, oh, great. That's
Yep.
fantastic. So,
Yeah, and that's what we're looking to avoid with Prisma. And part of the reason why, we want to be able to incentivize and provide those options for holders, to kind of diversify, their payouts and the way that those happen. Because when they get to the point where they're choosing, how they're going to be paid out in revenue that's generated, not just taken in from holders and then funneled and cycled back into them, as I like to call it, circular funding.
mhm.
Um, when we're taking in actual revenue, from these different farming strategies, and we're providing that revenue to holders, and then they can get paid out in the way that they want. They're not exit liquidity for anybody. You're getting paid out in something that is value, has value, instead of being paid out in just another token of Prisma. And so that's kind of the added benefit that we, have here. That's why those vaults are so important, and that's why we don't have any locks or staking fees on them. Is we want people to be flexible because we found and we felt that 4% buy fees and 4% sell fees, while low, that's still an amount that you have to overcome before, in effect, you can sell your Prisma. You
Yep.
know, so it's even though it's just 8%, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. There are other projects that had 8% buy fees. Just alone they had 8% buy fees and they had like 15% sell fees but still to us 8% was extremely high, and that's why when we transition to that V2 token we're planning on totally just removing those as a whole. So as like a baseline, just to kind of explain our breakdown of those fees as well too, so somebody is like, hey, I'm curious, like what do they go to, why are you charging it if you don't like it? So early on it's going to go to 1% is going to go to our LP, 1% will go to the treasury, and 2% will go to our investment trading fund or ITF, and that's how we're generating the revenue. Um, Now we do have our pink sale that's going through, where 51% of that is going to be going into our liquidity pool, and then about another 40 to 45% of that is going to go to our investment trading fund or ITF, and then the rest is going to go into our treasury for like marketing purposes and things like that. And just kind of go that route with it. But that's kind of the breakdown, and those fees that I just talked about, the 1%, 2%, 1%, that's mirrored on the sell side. So it's 1% to LP, 1% to Treasury, 2% to the ITF on both the buys and the sells. So we wanted to kind of keep it simple. We do have some options within our contract to even turn those off if we want to, like, let's say we do like a weekly promotion or something like that where, hey,
Right.
we turn off our buy fees.
Yep.
We can do that for our holders, kind of whenever we want. Um, but
Nice.
yeah,
That's good.
that's kind of the, little extra tidbit of a breakdown there for you. Give a little deeper insight into why we're kind of doing some of the things like that. I think somebody had a question about the auto staking.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Serenity asked, will there be an auto compound option, which you kind of talked about a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So with the Prisma Auto Reinvest Vault, that will have the auto compound function built into it. So the way that it works is you'll stake your Prisma, you'll get paid out your stable coin. It'll be converted into Prisma with no buy fee associated with it, and that will be auto staked back into your portion there. So like, let's say you had 10,000 Prisma, you got $100 worth of USDC. That $100 worth of USDC is converted into Prisma, and then it is just put right back into staking. So it's auto compounded right in there for you. So now instead of having 10,000 Prisma, let's say the $100 worth of USDC bought another 1,000 Prisma, you'd now have 11,000 Prisma staked. And if you want, you can just unstake it and move it to something else if you wanted to, or you can just leave it in there and just let it auto compound. So that way you can just get more and more higher payouts as time goes on. And again, since there's no lockup timers, there's nothing where it has to like, oh, this is auto compounded, now it's got to reset this timer, or you're charged a fee. We don't have anything like that. So
Hmm.
you guys can use it as freely as you want, without any kind of issue, without any kind of drawbacks.
Nice. Yeah. So for all the token maxis that want to just accrue as much Prisma tokens as possible,
Exactly.
that's the spot for them. No, I
Yeah.
like that.
And just to kind of, further piggyback on that as well too, and just kind of explain the payout and how that kind of works. So the way that the payouts are broken down is it accounts for the amount of Prisma that you hold, either staked or in your wallet, and then it compares that to all of the Prisma held in all of the wallets. So it doesn't include the liquidity pools or anything like that. So in that aspect, we're gonna recommend like, hey, don't try to provide liquidity for us. We'll be fine. But it's a situation where we've basically nixed anything within the LP to receive those USDC payouts, because we don't want the LP to be receiving payouts that are supposed to go to our holders.
Yeah. Because then the
Yeah,
LP contract itself would be getting rewards that
it
wouldn't be
yeah,
claimable,
it
right?
just it doesn't create a positive outlook there. And the reason why we did that as well too is we also accounted for having some funds go back into the LP with the revenue payouts. So to break that down as well, whenever we do the revenue payouts, 30% is going to be reinvested back into the ITF, the investment trading fund, where we generate more income, generate more revenue, and pay that out. 30% is going to go to our holders. 20% goes to the LP, 10% goes to our treasury, and 10% is for things like team salaries and stuff like that, as we need to, potentially bring more people on. As time goes on, the secondary function to our upgrade to V2 is going to be changing those allocations from the 30, 30, 20, 10, 10 to 10 percent going to the reinvestment, 60% going to holders in the form of their revenue payouts, 10% go into the LP, 10% go into treasury, 10% go into like team salaries and things like that. So it's like pretty much when we kind of hit that point where we're like, yeah, we don't need fees anymore. Our ITF is doing fine. It's at a value that we're okay with. we're basically going to double payouts. So it's this massive increase, this massive change that's going to happen, and all of that is also in preparation for potentially like a CEX listing as well too. So we're really excited to be able to kind of, have the groundwork already in place for what we want to do, and then we've already got the plan moving forward. Like I said, that'll happen, once we reach a couple of milestones that we're kind of happy with. And then from there, it'll be a situation where we'll transition to that V2 and we'll remove the fees for everybody, for pretty much everything across the board. Again, the only ones that they'd have to deal with is just your standard gas fees for, hey, you paid 12 cents to get into this, staking vault or whatever it is. And then, yeah, we changed the revenue payout structure as well to be more beneficial to our holders. So yeah, a lot of really awesome big changes coming when that happens. Most likely it'll occur after we open up our additional ITFs. And to kind of go over that a little bit further, we plan on having, ITFs that have different structures associated with them. So we've as a baseline, the current ITF or investment trading fund that we have is what we're considering like our quote unquote mid balance, mid risk. Our lower risk one is going to be filled more with like stable coin commodities, things like that. And it'll have a lower return, but it's going to be a much more stable and consistent return, where you might be seeing something anywhere from like 5 to maybe 10 to 12% on the year, but it's going to be things that will be extremely consistent, and that'll contain a lot of, like I said, like stable coins, commodities. We're looking to have CGLD being a big part of that as well too. I know you guys are looking at creating silver and diamond commodities, so those will both be in there
Hmm.
also.
Hell
And
yeah.
then we're going to have what would be considered like a higher risk one, which would be more focused and centralized on like bot farming. And then we'll have a dollar cost average one as well too, where it's like, hey, we're just gonna buy these blue chip tokens or partner tokens, and as they go up, we're just gonna convert some of them and pay them out to our holders. So yeah, we're planning on opening those once we get enough funds to really kind of allocate into them heavily. And then from there, that's when we'll most likely transition to V2, because that'll allow us to fully and freely be able to kind of overhaul the tokens to match those new ITFs and allow us to be able to really provide, these additional routes and avenues that, most other projects aren't able to kind of do the same thing on.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
This all sounds very cool. So, I guess one last thing would be, you've got your sale coming up, right?
Correct. Yeah. So our pink sale actually starts tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I think that's what, 4 UTC, if memory
Something
serves.
like that. I'm so
Something like
bad at
that.
UTC. Yeah.
I get it wrong every time myself. But yeah, our pink sale starts tomorrow. It'll be running through the 11th. It is a fair launch. So it doesn't matter if you get in minute one or 1 minute before it closes. Everybody's getting a fair price going through that. Um, and then on the 12th is when we'll actually be launching the project. We are going to be launching on the Binance Smart Chain. And I do know that you guys are probably like, Binance, why not Arbitrum? What's going on there? So we are still looking for kind of like where Prisma will end up. But we do have some things in place that we are looking to ensure that our vaults are going to be cross chain as well, that will allow us to be able to give exposure to tokens and projects that are not on Binance, just as like a baseline. So, yeah, just really excited for what we're kind of able to provide in terms of setup process, being able to kind of partner with tokens that aren't even on Binance as a whole, and be able to really kind of expand this ecosystem to give people that flexibility that they're looking for. So starts on the 8th, runs through the 11th, and then launches on the 12th. Yep.
Nice. Yeah. Perfect. It's a good little segue too into kind of how we're gonna work together and how we can benefit each other and strive for a greater future. So I think that's good because yeah, you just talked about Binance and even the ability to have the cross chain vaults and stuff. And we've talked a little bit, and even with the community and stuff for collective finance, we're always interested in expanding and growing and going cross chain. So eventually we will be on BSC. Just the timing of exactly when is a little bit unsure at the moment, but it definitely is in talks right now for us to kind of start to head over there and do all that. So it should be a little bit easier to give that exposure and people the ability to actually earn C Gold from their payouts just directly on Binance instead of having to get it paid out on Arbitrum or something
Yeah.
like that. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. And yeah, so that's kind of one way that we'll be working together. So do you want to explain that a little bit, like what the C Gold vault would look like?
Yeah, so we still have a couple of little final things to iron out with that, in terms of whether or not we're gonna just end up, like buying it directly off Arbidex, or if we're just going to end up minting it, and we just kind of have to, like finish up that stuff. But the way that it'll eventually work is, let's assume that, it'll be, I don't know, like 3 months before you guys are on Binance. We would effectively set up that vault. You would need to make sure that you're connecting an Arbitrum compatible. I'm having a moment here. My brain is shut down. An Arbitrum compatible wallet to it. So
Okay.
like in that case, most likely like your MetaMask or Trust Wallet or whatever it would be, where it's like, hey, this can have like multiple chains on it.
Hmm.
And then we would just, go through the process of using contracts to be able to buy that on the back end side, the bridging, everything that would be necessary there, and then move that over and just auto deposit it right into your wallet. And again, we take that hit on the back end side of, paying like the gas fees and stuff like that, and making sure all that kind of goes through. So the contracts will be, probably a little bit complex, but it's all handled for you. Like, you don't have to go through and do anything yourself. You just have to make sure that you've got a wallet that's compatible with both, your Binance and, Arbitrum. We may adjust it to where you just connect your Arbitrum wallet to, um, like our DApp,
Yeah.
but we're still kind of doing a couple of tests with that and things there to make sure that we're going through it about the best way we possibly can. One of the things that we've kind of been looking into is, some of the widgets that allow us to, bridge from one DEX to another, or one blockchain to another without having to do anything else. And we're thinking it's probably going to be easiest to just kind of implement that on the back end, for the swap side of the contracts, because basically the way the contract will work is, it'll see how much you have. It'll take in whatever that amount is supposed to be, and in the stablecoin payout, it'll go to whatever DEX is associated to that coin, or to that specific vault, and then it'll buy the amount that's associated to that, and then it'll deposit right back into, your guys' vault without you having to do anything, or your guys' wallet without having to do anything. Again, the cross chain one, it might be a situation where you may not be able to auto drop that right into the wallet. We're still doing some testing with that, but yeah, that's the plan for it. Is that, hey, we're gonna just, use like a back end, um, process to be able to swap from one blockchain to the next, one DEX to the next without having to do anything else, and then it just auto drops right into your wallet. That's the end goal there. We're doing a little bit of testing, but we feel we should have everything up and running for CGLD, prior to the first payout, which would be August 1st. Is the goal for this one here. Um,
Awesome. That's
yeah, we
really
want to
cool. Looking forward to that, definitely.
Yeah, we want to give a little time to allow us to kind of, make sure everything is running smoothly. We're not running into any kind of issues. So that's why the payout isn't going to be till August 1st. Now, obviously, if things are doing better and, like everything skyrockets, we'd pay out July 1st. But it's a situation where we want to kind of really make sure that everything is up and running, since we're about halfway through June, by the time we're going to be launching, and really kind of get the ball rolling. We want to kind of see where we're at, make sure everything is good to go. And that's why we're shooting right now for August 1st, but that's not, like 100% going to be the case. Like, if it comes to find out that we do like 15% returns in like 12 days, we'll obviously pay those right out July 1st, no problem.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the latest people will receive the first payout would be August 1st. And then, respectively, every month after that, it'll be roughly like the first or the second going forward, depending on the way that things go. But as time kind of moves on and as we're generating more revenue, we'll most likely end up having to adjust that payout structure to be closer to probably every other week, or then even eventually down the road every week. Because as it kind of ramps up, we'll get to a point where it's like if we're doing $100,000, a month, I don't want to sit on $100,000 for 30 days. That just
Yeah,
I'd rather just pay
exactly.
out
What's the point?
25,000 a week, and people will just be happy and they get the dollar cost average more often into what they're doing, or they get their stable coin payouts more often versus me sitting here and being like, yeah, we're gonna sit on $100,000 for 20 days or 20 more days or something crazy like that or whatever it is. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'd
Yeah,
much rather just put it in our holders' hands and just let them have fun with it. So yeah. But
cool.
that's like a future Matt problem, so to speak, that I'm happy to figure out at a later point in time. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. So I was just wondering really quick on the cross chain part. Have you heard of some people called Crypto Link before? I feel like you might have, but
I think we talked about that. We're kind of looking through a couple of different platforms for that. There's an any to any, I think, is one of them.
yeah.
CryptoLink is one. There's like two others that we've been looking at as well too. Effectively, what we're trying to do on this side is we are really looking to hopefully find something that's going to have like super super minimal fees. And the logic behind that is, we don't want to have to be paying a ridiculous amount in fees, ourselves on this side, because that just takes away from what farming we're able to do. Two, we don't want any fees to translate to the holders because, in most cases, when you like bridge something over, you lose X percentage or something like that. Or like when you
Yeah.
buy cross chain, you lose X percentage. And we don't want to go through that process of going cross chain if we're going to have to charge like 4% or something crazy like that. So our goal right now is to find the one that's got like the lowest percentage, or if we can charge 0% ourselves, that would be great. Because I know there's a couple of projects that are out there, that charge like a quarter, like a half a percent, and then whatever you want to charge as well on top of that. So it would be
Hmm.
like, hey, if you have $100, they're going to charge like 25 cents for you to buy something from Binance to Arbitrum, plus then whatever fee the project plans on adding to it, and we're not going to add a fee. So that's what we're kind of looking at right now is, hey, how can we get the most benefit? How can we make sure that there's no fees charged to this? And then how can we provide those options to our holders as well? So as time kind of goes on, we're looking to open up that capacity where, like, if you wanted to buy Prisma from Arbitrum or from Optimism or Matic or, Avalanche or whatever it would be, you can buy, over to Prisma. And, you don't have to worry about being charged some extra fee other than the 4% buy and sell fee while those are still active. And then once we remove them, we don't want people paying fees in general if we can avoid it. So yeah, that's the big that's a big time sink for us right now in the cross train buys and sells. But
Yeah.
you know, we're pretty excited about that going forward, and we think we're going to be in a good place with it. And you guys have provided some good options to us in that regard as well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I thought I'd bring them up just in case because I know they've been working on some really cool cross chain stuff and they have really low fees and everything. So I figured I'd just mention it just in case. But because yeah, we're looking to do some cross chain stuff, coming pretty soon. So I've had them on the
Yeah,
back of my mind to see about how we can work with them and everything. So yeah, I think it'd be pretty beneficial for you guys just in case as well. But yeah, no, I think
absolutely.
it all sounds pretty cool. I guess for more details on our partnership, just yeah, expect a vault coming soon whenever you guys are all up and running, and potentially a Binance side vault for Sea Gold once we eventually do go cross chain and all that. And some more AMAs and a Twitter space this Friday, and probably some further stuff down the road. Definitely looking forward to continuing work with you and do some AMAs and Twitter spaces. That's how we originally met, so be
Yeah,
cool.
it was the Cardinal House AMA. I mean, it's fun how just randomly doing stuff sometimes ends up leading to kind of longer term things you'd never expect. But yeah, and just for the record, in case anyone's curious about those vaults, they will be open and available like way before a payout is planned to happen. And if there is some form of an issue with us creating the vault or certain vaults prior to the payout going out. So like as an example of such, I said that the first payout would be August 1st, but if we're doing better than expected, we may pay out like say July 1st. Well, if we don't have the vaults up and running, we will not do a payout until we make sure that those are in place. We've made promises and commitments to projects that we're going to follow through with, and we want any of our partner projects to be fully available for anybody that's within Prisma and wants to stake in those vaults. So prior to our first payout going out, we will have those vaults up and running. So I don't want people to think like, hey, even though this is cross chain from, Binance to Arbitrum, how long am I going to have to wait? Like 3 months, 6 months? What's going on? No, it'll be up and running first payout. So that way, anyone that wants to get that exposure to Sea Gold and wants to, stake their Prisma to get Sea Gold will have the option to do so. So I just wanted to touch base on that really quick. I know we're kind of coming to the end here. I don't know if anybody's got any other questions for us, but I just wanted to make that clear that like, hey, you guys aren't going to miss out on this. We're going to make sure it's up and running for you.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Glad to hear. Definitely good to kind of get all those set up and everything. And yeah, we'll probably give it last roll call for any last questions here. If anybody's got anything, or if you want to hop up on stage, you can go right ahead and request that, or just drop your question in the AMA questions, or just in the side chat here, and then we'll get that covered. But yeah, lastly, you can expect that we'll be doing an AMA over in your guys' server over at Prisma, kind of cover what collective finance is and how we'll
Absolutely.
be doing that. So talk about sea gold and some other commodities and what we got coming. We've got lots of cool stuff on the way. We've been working really hard, waiting to
Mm.
release like our D app and a lot of other little small things that are just looking super super good. We're just like itching to drop it. So yeah,
Awesome.
we're excited to finally get those out and start to hype that up. So
Yeah,
um,
and we'd love to have you guys over to be able to provide that additional info to Prisma holders because on our side, we feel that there's, like two main, what would be considered low risk, tokens that you can kind of hold is, one, you can have, stablecoin tokens you're holding, which are generally in most cases, as long as they're backed, fairly low risk. The other one is commodities as well. So, we can't wait to have you guys over there to be able to explain the benefits of holding, like sea gold and other things on that side. So yeah, we're really excited to have you over there to further deep dive into the vault that we're going to be opening for y'all.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. It's gonna be pretty unique, pretty cool, and what we're doing is a little bit different. And sometimes, we're I guess not sometimes, but we're shooting for trying to provide a better return, higher APR, APY on stable pools. So instead of going with like a USDC, USDT LP pool, you just hop into Sea Gold because it has a better return. Price appreciates slowly over time. It's essentially just like a better pool to be in rather than a stable pool, right? So you just get a lot more benefits out of it. The token's 100% backed, over collateralized. You can mint, you can redeem, all that cool stuff. But anyway, we'll jump more into that when we're over in your
Yeah,
guys'
I,
server.
I
So
can't wait to bring that over to our Discord and go over it with those guys because I know they're going to be really excited once they realize that, oh hey, not only could I get stablecoin, I can get some gold as well too. Let's do it. So yeah, really excited for it.
exactly.
Absolutely can't wait. We'll have to set it up soon.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll get that going real soon. And then there's also the Twitter Space on Friday, roughly same time as this one that started, or the same day that started. So everybody
Mhm.
down there and everybody listening, stay tuned for that. If you want to come have some fun and come chat, we'll probably just do like a more of like a generalized space and just kind of talk, stable assets and steady growth and what to look for in good projects and good stable assets, things like that. Because I definitely feel like you'd have some good talking points in there. So um, yeah, I think that's probably just about everything, unless we got some last questions here. Thanks everybody for showing up. Shout out to Serenity down there. He's a good close friend of ours. So
Yeah,
always happy to see him around.
well, I think that's all the questions as well too. So I think we're good to go unless I missed something. Did we miss anything chat wise? Nope, we're
Uh,
good.
yeah, I think so. I think that's everything. So yeah, thank you everybody for showing up, and thanks everybody for listening to the recording. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you again all soon in some other AMAs and Twitter Spaces. So yeah, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and we'll be chatting soon.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. See you, Chrome.